Welcome to week 3 of the Inclusive Learning Network's small open online course on Universal Design for Learning and Apps. This week, Luis Perez, one of your instructors, takes a deeper look at what is now the second principle of Universal Design for Learning, providing multiple means of representation. Following the webinar, please stay tuned for some information from your instructors, Luis, Kendra, and Betsy, that will help you complete the activities for this week. Now sit back and enjoy this webinar on the UDL principle of multiple means of representation. Providing multiple means of representation is now the second principle of Universal Design for Learning. It is the what of learning, and its main purpose is to help students become resourceful, knowledgeable learners. Representation is handled by the recognition network, which is located in the back of the brain in those structures which are designed to recognize patterns in the information we receive through our senses. In making sense of this information, the recognition network also relies on our prior knowledge and our experience to fill in any gaps. The recognition network helps you not only understand the individual words as you read text, but also the writer's style and the tone of the piece. For most of us, printed text has dominated our educational experience. And for most of us, we were good at accessing text and deriving meaning from it. Those of us who struggled to read text were often labeled as having some type of learning disability and given labeled books or removed from the class for extra help. While text is still an important form of communication, multimedia and digital access has changed the communication landscape. Options for representing content in a variety of ways are only limited by imaginations. UDL asks us to consider, include, and value all of the available options for representation. This principle also challenges us to help students process vast amounts of information, not at a surface level, which is all too easy in our information-saturated world, but deeper and with purpose. UDL asks us to help students make connections, see the big ideas, and build conceptual models of understanding. Let's look at each guideline for representation in more detail, what it means, and how you might apply it in your educational setting. The first guideline on the representation calls for providing options for perception. This guideline is foundational. If we do not provide access to information through technology, then we are maintaining barriers to learning. Given the many customization options now readily available on our devices, not building this access into our instruction from the outset is akin to designing a tall building with one set of stairs and then asking a person who uses a wheelchair to get to the top floor. This guideline calls on us to pay attention to some basic accessibility principles from the start. For example, including images and other visual aids can make it easier for those with memory or other processing issues to understand the information. But if those visual aids do not have text alternatives, then the content will be inaccessible to a student who's blind or who relies on assistive technology to have the information read aloud. Addressing the variability in how students access and process information requires us to address the needs of those who are in the margins. Providing at least 2 or more ways to access and understand information is an essential part of a UDL environment. By all means, you should take advantage of the rich palette provided by digital media to present content in a way that is not only aesthetically pleasing, but also assists students with their understanding of complex relationships and processes. This can be done through the use of illustrations, diagrams, and multimedia. However, in selecting or creating these digital resources, you should ensure that they're accessible to all students. Images should include text alternatives, multimedia should include captions or transcripts, and learners should be able to adjust the appearance or the rate of presentation, since not all learners can process information at the same pace. Some tools to provide options for perception include the built-in accessibility tools on iOS and Android. On iOS, you can use large text or invert colors to change the appearance of the content, zoom for magnification, and voiceover to have the content read out loud. On Android, you can use TalkBack as a screen reader, or magnification gestures are also built in. And on Chrome, you can use extensions such as ChromeVox, which is a screen reader option, and ChromeViz to change the display for those who need higher contrast. Students today have access to robust assistive technologies for overcoming barriers to learning, but these tools can only work as intended when the content is accessible. The second guideline on the representation calls for providing options for language, mathematical expressions, and symbols. This guideline is all about providing an alternative for any words, symbols, numbers, or icons that may challenge students based on their background, first language, or a learning difference. What was once an onerous task is now simplified with digital access and the ability to hyperlink in most apps and online tools. When possible, translate, review, or provide links to key vocabulary, labels, icons, and symbols, and engage students in the process, having them create or find these alternatives. To help students better understand key concepts, pair traditional forms such as text or math equations with an alternative form. This might include visual representations such as illustrations, photographs, art, diagrams, charts, and graphic organizers, as well as media such as video, presentation tools, online interactives, and animation, or the use of manipulatives to present abstract mathematical concepts in a more concrete form. One of the easiest ways to provide support for text-bound information is to use text-to-speech. Fortunately, this option is built into iOS devices as the Speak Selection and Speak Screen features found under the accessibility options. On Chrome, you can provide support for text-to-speech with the Read and Write for Google and the Chrome Speak extensions. The final guideline for representation calls for providing options for comprehension. This guideline focuses on understanding and making deeper connections with the information. With the advent of Google in 1998, facts have little value on their own. The need to memorize facts in all but a few areas is gone. Any questions, including how old is Google, can be found instantly on any device. What students do with the facts, how they solve problems with them, or make connections between them, or combine them into something new are important skills they need now and for the future. Visual thinking helps students generalize and retain information. Consider creating visual maps, also known as concept maps or mind maps, to show learners how their knowledge grows and interconnects over the course of a unit of study. These visual techniques are a key way to highlight key patterns, define critical features, and show relationships. They're even more powerful when students make them themselves. Some tools you can use to provide options for comprehension with visual thinking include iOS apps such as Poplet and Inspiration Maps, and Chrome extensions such as Connected Mind, Mindamo, or MindMeister. As you teach, you should also strive to build metacognitive thinking into your instruction. Have students reflect on strategies that help them process information by including frequent self-checks for understanding. Again, the goal is to create resourceful, knowledgeable learners who are creators of knowledge rather than just consumers of information. I hope you enjoyed that brief webinar on the UDL principle of multiple means of representation. Now that you've watched the webinar, please go to the course website at www.sookforlearning.com and click on the Representation tab for this week's tasks, as well as some additional resources that will help you learn more about this week's topic. And remember that we will once again this week be having open office hours through a Google Hangout, as well as a Twitter chat where you can ask any questions that you have about the course. And if at any time you have any questions or issues, please feel free to reach out to us, the instructors, Luis, Kendra, and Betsy, at sookforlearning@gmail.com. Thank you so much for your contributions to this course.